Welcome back to the Blue Door Pub Thunderdome for another Bull with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87, the best daily podcast, a show about everything and nothing at all, coming at your ass 5 days a week. Sitting shotgun is no one. Is nobody. So I'm solo today, but it's fortuitous timing. There's a $10 word. It's good timing because it's Teacher Appreciation Week or Teacher Appreciation Day, one of the two. And I just wanted to take a full show and talk about some of the great formal educators of my life. And we always talk about, well, there was this guy who used to shoot craps down by the dumpster in my neighborhood. He taught me a lot of things. Or like Mahershala Ali. Nailed it. I'm sure taught the kid from Moonlight a lot of things about life and hustling and all that other stuff. So I'm not talking about like life teachers, like, or don't go all douchey on me and be like, well, to me, the greatest educator in my life is life. Shut up. We're talking about actual, formal, straight-up education, and we'll do that today. Tell a friend, spread the word. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Follow me on the Twitter machine. I'm adding Varu. As the Asians would say. I'm adding value. Oh, I can make that joke, by the way, if you're a new listener, because I'm Asian. And, lots of good stuff about recording on location. We were at Gabe's on the Park this week for The Scoop with Darren Wolfson. We're at Blue Door, as usual, with Lindsey Young yesterday. Though that's on Bull, and also it's going to be on Parts of Purple for the win. And, we're everywhere. And cute little snaps and pictures and videos of Muggsy as well. At Andy Carlson Show, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. All the kids in Snapchat. This is an evolving thing, but I did for me anyways, a pretty comical snap, I guess, because it's cool that it lets you record whatever's playing on your phone, right? So if you're playing music on your phone, that becomes part of the Snapchat video. And I did it with All For One's I Can Love You Like That. With their DFC wings, which are amazing. Yeah. And I don't know, get some good reaction. It's good. Yeah, so do that. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, at Andy Carlson Show. So the teachers, Teacher Appreciation Week. I want to look up when this started. And so bear with me. Teacher Appreciation Week. And teaching is still a noble profession. And people don't get in it for the money, although professors, some of the tenure definitely do. Because nothing chaps my ass more than I love my college, Winona State University College of Business. Got accredited while I was there. Very, very cool. But there are a number of professors there. Not going to name names, not going to throw them under the bus, but the college that you went to or go to now, you can think of about 7 professors in the College of Business have never worked a day in their gosh darn lives in the private sector, and yet are hammering those checks. And they're talking about business, biz dev, they're talking about marketing, they're talking about everything like that. You have no idea what's going on in the world. You have no idea what's going on in the world because you've never had to live out in the real world. You've never had to only eat what you kill. No, you've never done that. That's why I really respect the professors, and we'll get into one, probably my favorite professor of all time, Don Salyards, of guys who go out there and do it, because he was an entrepreneur. He's in a bunch of companies while he's teaching, and even taught an entrepreneur class. And yeah, that sort of effect, because humans, we're really good at detecting bull. Yeah, we're really good at detecting and weeding out bullshit. Yeah, that's why VR is going to get like 98% there, except 2% of us knows that it's not there, right? Or if you're hearing someone speak, it's like a business coach or business guru or a motivational speaker, even though they've never done anything motivational in their lives. They've never ran a business. They've never done anything like that. It's really easy to tune that out and not listen. And just like teachers, especially college professors, when they're, I'm not talking about like elementary school teachers, the ABCs of life, because everyone knows ABCs, but the college professors that have never stepped foot off of that campus, like they got their undergrad, they got their master's, they got their doctorate, and then they started teaching at the school. Broham, you've never stepped foot off of this campus, so I don't believe a word that you're saying when it comes to business. Like if they're doing math or stats or whatever, I don't really care. But yeah, business, yeah, it's a little rough. Really easy to weed out there. But something that's not easy to weed out is our Amazon page. And bullshow.co/Amazon. Take you right to the homepage. Drag it down to your bookmark bar. You guys know exactly what to do. And we love you for it. It's the easiest way to support the shows because it's something you already do. Shopping on Amazon. Same great Amazon shopping experience. And we get a couple of nickels in our pocket. We get our gold star. Yeah, do you guys remember gold stars with teachers? Yeah, it's good. Bullshow.co/Amazon. Bookmark the living out of it. So, recapping my teachers. And I've had trouble with this list because I don't have my yearbooks or annuals, as they're called, and frankly, I don't really care. So just racking the brain. The highlights stand out. Also, the lowlights stand out. So we'll run through here. Now, I'm not going to... Is it slander or libel when you say it? That's the running joke. Don't worry. So I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but I will highlight, since it's Teacher Appreciation Week, it's not drag your teacher week, although many of us would have loved to. So kindergarten, coming out of preschool and getting into kindergarten, was Mrs. Colbinson. And she was married to Mr. Colbinson, Mr. C, which we'll get to in a little bit. Two probably the best two teachers. They're the power couple. They're the Benefer. No. Well, what's a good power couple nowadays? The Kimye? Yeah, they're the Kimye of teachers, except actually good. And, Mrs. Colbinson, you can tell that teachers that get into it because they love kids, they love teaching, they love knowing that they're making a difference on these people's lives. Because, if you've been a teacher, especially an elementary school teacher, you'll probably go through a couple thousand students, by the time it's all said and done, right? You figure, all right, so let's do the math. 25 kids per class per year. So 4 years, that's 100. If you teach for 40 years, I'm already lost. So 10, 100, it's 1,000 kids. No, it's 1,000. I'm bad at math. Whoever my math teachers were, you suck. And that you should have had a lead because I'm Asian, but I digress. 1,000 kids that you already you have your mitts on, and 1,000 kids that remember that you were their kindergarten teacher, good, bad, or otherwise. Or if you had to have a shoddy memory like me, maybe you don't remember your third grade teacher, which is the case here. Ms. Colbinson, I still remember the classroom. I still remember my seat and those little plastic colored chairs. That were maroon because maroon dye must have been on sale in China, that day. And I just sat at the table and coloring and doing water paints and going on what you thought were field trips, but really you're just going down to the park and looking for bugs. Yeah, I mean, that was super fun. And it's funny how the mind works because when I'm thinking through the alphabet, I remember that there's wallpaper that was around the room, right? And it started about halfway through the long wall with A, and it went to the corner, and then went about halfway through the short wall to Z. And in my mind's eye, like when I'm going through the ABCs of Muggsy, I still remember that LMNOP is in the corner. It's something that is still ingrained in my mind, that when you're going through the alphabet, that OP is right in the corner of that room. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Well, to me at least. And I remember the song of Days of the Week. The days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The days of the week. Yeah, and just she had the enthusiasm that still sticks with kids. It resonates with kids. It's very much PJ Fleckish, where it's like you're catering to your audience, right? PJ Fleck's sort of rah-rah upbeat resonates with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And, just like a really upbeat and peppy kindergarten teacher resonates with 5-year-old kids. It's almost like a reverse engineering for your demo. I think it's really smart and awesome. That was Mrs. Coleman. My first grade teacher, I'm having difficulty remembering because I know that Mrs. Miro was either first or second grade. I can't really remember. But yeah, she was really awesome as well. And also, I believe she had a kid during my year with her. So that was like my first introduction to be like, oh, people have kids and people have to leave. And then we had a substitute teacher for the rest of the year, which is kind of odd. And things change and people change and whatever changes. And I don't know. I think she let us name the kid too. And that was before the internet, before things got really weird. Because if it had been the internet age when she let us name the kid, which I can't remember the kid's name. I think it's a girl. It would have been like Bodie McBoatface, you know? Although, now that I think about it, I think the girl's name was Mariah. But I think she rigged the ballot box. Because I think I remember she wrote like 6 names on the board, right? And she wrote the one that she wanted. Well, she made it first, like you do in all polls, and then also made it slightly larger, like the handwriting size. Yeah. So I think she duped us. Yeah. All right. Screw Mrs. Miro. Not just kidding. Lovely lady, really excellent as well. Second grade was Mrs. Mann, I believe, Mann, and we had fun with. Oh no, hold on. So Mrs. Overland was the substitute teacher when Mrs. Miro got pregnant, I believe, and I remember we actually had a legit field trip out to Mrs. Overland's farmhouse, I believe. Yeah, she had a lot of animals out there, livestock and knickknacks. Like you think of your American Gothic, stereotypically American flyover country farm, and with the dairy cows and the tractors and the 17 rooster cookie jars. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. And I think she made her own apple butter. Yeah, I mean, that's really tasty. The random things that your brain retains. And also random, as kids are, and I'm sure there was a time or two when we really deserved getting some discipline, but they call not me, by the way, for listening to this, Mrs. Overland. I hope you're well. They started calling her Mrs. Overload. Yeah, I mean, because that makes sense. I mean, kids are stupid. Either second or third grade was Mrs. Mann, Mann, and she was the first of the more stern, more stoic, less expressive teachers. And there's pros and cons to each sort of style, and I'm sure that I learned quite a bit from her, but it doesn't stick out as being as fun and happy-go-lucky as Mrs. Colemanson. But maybe I retained more knowledge there. Maybe we're starting to get up to the age where it is more about reading, writing, arithmetic as opposed to fun. And Mrs. Mann, I believe she was either her last class or second to last class, so she was getting up towards retirement age while she was teaching us too. So maybe that's part of it too. Maybe it's a generational thing. Oh, hold on. I actually think no, that wouldn't make sense. No, I actually think that Mrs. Mann taught my dad. I think that was the story. Even though my dad was significantly older, he was 40 when I was adopted. I think I remember that being true. Yeah, because when you're in the city, you shift around schools all the time, right? And then people move into cities and out of suburbs and stuff like that. But that's sort of the cool thing about small towns that I grew up in Rushford, Minnesota. And I always said about small towns like Rushford is that the best part of small towns is that you know everyone. The worst part of small towns is that you know everyone. Yeah, it's funny how that works. But I think Mrs. Mann taught my dad one of the first years that she got out of teaching school, and then had me. And I'm sure if you've been a teacher in a small town school for a number of years, that happens a lot. I mean, I'm sure that has a ton of overlap where you teach the parents and then the kids, maybe even the grandkids. Yeah, it's weird how that works. So third grade, I'm still uncertain of who my teacher was. And it might have been Mrs. Mann in third grade. It might have been Mrs. Miro. It might have been something. But either way, there's some sort of shift around there. But either way, I'm blanking. No, never mind. I don't remember it. Fourth grade was Mrs. Hoyland. Now, Mrs. Hoyland, I got to know pretty well just in real life as becoming a young adult. She always came into the grocery store as people want to do, and I worked at the grocery store from age 14 to 18 until I went off to college. Yeah, and I would highly recommend working in a grocery store if you come from a small or smallerish town, because it's a really good way to get to know people, because everyone has to go shopping, right? Everyone has to get food. Everyone has to get groceries, and it's a good way to get to know your neighbors, get to know the town, and make contacts that you can use down the line. It's really cool. But Miss Hoyland, great singing voice. Also, I remember that she frequently had to dip out of school in the afternoons because she had to go sing or play at a funeral. Yeah, and this sticks with me the most. Is that whenever we were bad, so she had a reward, like a reward and punishment system, and it was genius in simplicity. And what it was is that we'll say 25 students in the class, right? And every single day she would add 5 suckers to this bowl, a little plastic bowl on a table, and there were the blow pop suckers, like the really good ones. Green apple are always the best. Don't at me or I'll fight you. And so every day she would add 5, right? But if we started acting bad or we weren't listening, we're being loud, being rowdy, she would take away a sucker. And I was like, oh, there's only 4 suckers left. And if she went through all 5 suckers for the day, the bowl got emptied. So if you were getting close, if you were on 25 when she added the 5 for the day, and then she took away those 5, like if we were really POSs that day, and then it went down to 0, and you're like, no. And yeah, it's a good way for bribery / rewarding good behavior. And also, this is something that United should have done too. When that jabroni doctor, the Asian doctor, when we get off the plane, they should have just turned it on to the people. Because when 2 or 3 suckers went, and it was like 1 or 2 kids that were acting up, it was pretty quickly classroom justice going on of like, hey, Matt, STFU, in probably less words and more colorful language. Hey, STFU, we got 17 suckers in that thing, man. And by the end of the week, we're going to enjoy a nice, delicious blow pop sucker unless you keep acting a fool. So shut your mouth. Yeah. So the collective behavioral norm correcting, I think, is something that is vastly underrated. And also, getting back, coming full circle to the United thing, that's what they should have done. Excuse me, passengers. We will not be leaving the runway until passenger seated in seat 6B gets his ass off the flight. Nice. Yeah. Would have worked. Yeah. It worked with Miss Hoyland. And also, do you remember... Yeah, think about when you guys first got the sex talk, and what it was is I remember because they split us up between boys and girls in 4th grade, and the girls went to the auditorium and got the full speech about periods and menstruation and watched the whole video, that whole thing. Guys, we never had the sex talk, which is probably explains a lot of why guys are where they are. I remember we watched Sleepy Hollow. Yeah, the cartoon, like the Headless Horseman. Odd. Fitting. And, man, like kids nowadays will never understand this because they have smart boards and stuff, but whenever they rolled in that dolly of like the giant tube TV just precariously perched on top of that really rickety, like $40 worth of aluminum rolling cart, when you hear that thing rolling down the hallway, it's like, yeah, amazing. We can either nap during this video or we're going to be entertained and we won't have to learn. It will be awesome. And that used to be a full-time job. AV coordinator at the I don't know if it still is. Maybe it's the person who works the smart boards now or works the iPads now. Yeah. But yeah, that used to be a job. Usually it was for the AV coordinator at a high school or middle school or whatever. It would be the guy who really wanted to be the football coach or the basketball coach. Yeah, not so much at my school. We'll get into that, but yeah, you're thinking about it right now, aren't you? Yeah, I actually think Mike Pettin, who was a longtime defensive coordinator for Rex Ryan in New York, and then had a year in Buffalo, and then was eventually the Browns head coach. He was the high school football coach at North Penn High School. His dad, Mike Pettin Sr., was a legend at Central Bucks West, and there's a whole bunch of literature about it. And he, when he was working as a high school football coach, a lot of places only hire staff members, whether it be teachers or at least have to be on staff. He was the AV coordinator. He was the audio visual coordinator. He doesn't know anything about film except for watching film. That's it. He can't hook up the RCA cables. Get out of here. You trust Mike Pettin to hook up a TV? No, get out of here. Where was I? Oh, fifth grade. And it's cool how remembering all these teachers and remember where the classroom was, because I think that they're getting a new school in Rushford now, but getting rid of the old one because it was a relic. I think it was built in 1904. But yeah, just remembering where the placement of the classrooms were, it's kind of neat. And so fifth grade was Mrs. Stelflug, and she was pretty much near retirement, definitely old school lady. I love that she had a perm. It was a hardcore perm, like the ones that you would have to go get fixed up every single week, and very stern, very disciplinarian, very authoritative. I don't even remember what we learned. I really don't. But I do remember that was when you started rotating, right? Because you had your homeroom, but you would rotate through Mrs. Himley's class, who was also my driver's ed instructor. And she bought me ice cream because I didn't crash anything. I don't know if that was a slight on Asian drivers or not, but it worked. I can parallel park lane like no one's business, from the left or the right. Ooh, yeah. See, that's the thing. If you're on a one-way street, and if you can parallel park left, that's big. It's a big skill. And then also Mr. Wade, who ended up being my track and field coach, and rotating through those three classes. It was fun. Also. So Mr. Wade, he really awesome guy. Really love his family too. And I remember like the first time I viscerally got in trouble, because I was a good kid. Although my report cards early on, school came too easy, right? Just getting A's all over the place and naturally gifted, probably part of the Asian thing, right? And the first report card demerit was disruptive, where I would finish my homework and then just bug the shit out of my classmates, and they couldn't get stuff done. Yeah. So that was I think that was second grade. That might have been Mrs. Mann. Yeah, screw you, Mrs. Mann. This is fun for me. So Mr. Wade, the first time I actually got like in trouble was I forget which Pauly Shore movie it was. Do I have to look it up? It doesn't matter. But the line was, he's in a hotel and he's like, every day is an orgasm. And we were talking about some stupid science thing, right? And we're talking about organisms. And I'm like, wow, like every day is an organism, bro. Or every day is an orgasm, bro. The Pauly Shore voice, because that was big in the 90s. And yeah, he made me stay after class and he reprimanded me. I was like, what the hell, man? I didn't even know what that means. So I couldn't Google what the word meant, Sorry. I would have to go to the library and pull out Encyclopedia Britannica O through P, so volume 17, and then look up orgasm, and I'd be like, oh. So that, and then, except I would return the book. I would go back to the class and be like, so what's the big deal? Yeah. So and then next year, sixth grade was middle school, and then we're moving on different building because Rushford Peterson had merged, and K through 5 was in Rushford, as well as the high school 9 through 12. 6 through 8 was in Peterson, the old Peterson High School converted to a middle school. And also, kind of the neat thing is that we were the first class to go through the entire system. We were the first class from the merger to come out, and so yeah, neat. So I remember that we'd always have to catch the bus out to the middle school, and that was cool. Like, it's only a 4-mile bus ride, but you definitely learn a lot about like societal norms and like hierarchies and like complete like baboon Lord of the Flies stuff. Yeah, because there's nothing more humanistic than being on a bus. Yeah, our base human instinct, like the hierarchy of coolness, like the cooler you are, the further back in the bus you got to be. And also, that was your first opportunity. It was like, hey, girl, can I sit with you? Yeah. And your first opportunity is to, it was like speed dating. It really was, because it was like a 5-minute bus ride, and then you're sitting there, a girl that you like, you're trying to, lay some game on, even though you're, how old are you? 6th grade, like 11, 12 years old. You have no idea what you're doing. You can't talk to a girl. You can't articulate what's going on. You're just hoping that maybe she likes your CD collection. Yeah, I remember that. That was big too. Where was it? So 6th grade, teacher was Mr. Pettit. I think that was homeroom. I think he was like social studies, or I don't even know. Like I do remember him with his feet up on the desk and reading the paper all the time. And he was also the high school baseball coach. And I don't remember learning a GED thing in there, except I remember that he did not really care if we conversed. And that was the formative years of Andy getting his Mac on. You know what I mean? And because I was able to sit in the back next to a girl I was really crushing on. Her name was Janelle back in the day. And I remember it was like, it was quasi friend zone, could feel something is a little bit there. Except everyone back then, for some reason, I don't know why, all the girls were obsessed with Gary Payton. Yeah, and thinking of like random athletes, like not even premier, like Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr. athletes, of all people, Gary friggin' Payton. And remember when, I don't even know if it's still a thing, but when sports folders were cool, like having Gary Payton, the glove on your folder, that was cool. And you're like, oh my God, he is so hot. He is so fun. And that was the beginning of like sneakerhead culture. So he had the glove. Remember those Nike ones where the zipper would always break? I mean, that was cool. Yeah. Also cool is I was taking a little break, and we're back with more Andy teacher tales and also middle school foibles coming up on second half Bull with Andy Carlson on Thursday. So 2016 sucked for the Vikings, and also for a number of other reasons I heard, but it's okay. 2017 is upon us. Vikings fans, let's get going. All off-season, Purple for the win, coming right at you through free agency, the draft, and OTAs and training camp. Here we go. Get the show on 1500 ESPN, Podcast One, and the Podcast One app. And coming back into the Blue Door Pub Thunderdome, and get your butt down there. The tachos of time right now are the Le Cordon Bleu, Le Cordon Bleu. So good. 3 Twin Cities locations, thebdp.com, and I spent a lot of time there. Also, always finding new things, and what I had last night was the horse kick bluesy. And if you love horseradish, creamy little horseradish, it's got onion straws on there as well, stuffed with cheese, and get the breakfast. I recommend to anyone, if you're getting a bluesy, get the breakfast setup. And what it is that they just throw an egg and some bacon, 2 strips of delicious thick-cut bacon on there, and it's out of this world. Even if you get the bacon bluesy, add the breakfast setup. It is worth it. Do it up. TheBDP.com, St. Paul, Longfellow, and University on Como. So come back. We're talking, middle school crushes. So 6th grade teachers. Oh, because it's Teacher Appreciation Week, so we're sort of diverting off that. And also, Mr. Hosley was a science teacher. Right now, that was one of the first teachers I remember where you're actually learning things that are part of your daily life now. Because I remember we made sauerkraut. Yeah, we made friggin' sauerkraut, and I still use that process today because it was all you do is chop up the cabbage, add the salt water, a little bit of vinegar, and then you let it sit. Yeah, it's still how I make cabbage today. It's pretty crazy how that happens. And also, I think he was a wrestling coach. I remember he had the world's greatest mustache and was also my height, even though I was not a tall person. Well, I'm not a tall person now. I'm like 5'7", 5'8", maybe on a good day, right? Except I got my height early. And when playing high school, middle school basketball in 7th grade, I was a post player because I was how tall I am now. I was 5'7". I'm like, so here we go, baby. I'm going to the league, and here we go. Just a little dip, dive, dump. And it was great because Hakeem Olajuwon was low-key my favorite basketball player. Not Gary Payton, which all the girls had a crush on for some unknown reason. I mean, he wasn't even that good. Not just kidding. He's a Hall of Famer. Go Ducks. But yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon was my favorite player. So I was like, I was a post player because I was one of the taller, like maybe. So you had we'll say 15 guys on the basketball team. I was probably the 12th tallest guy. No, reverse that. 4th tallest guy. Yeah. But I stopped growing. Even though I thought it was going to be 6'6", 6'8", I was going to the league. Go in the league for a while, then maybe start a couple businesses, and then just live off that for the rest of my life. No, not really going to happen. Came up a foot short of the 6'8", and so 7th grade I was a post player, and then everyone else started getting their growth spurts. 8th grade I was a wing player, so I'm like, all right, so let's do this. Scottie Pippen, love him. Grant Hill was my boy before he got injured. Sad. And then freshman year in basketball was my last year in basketball, and then I focused on just football and track and whatever. And then I was a point guard. Yeah, because everyone else had lapped me in height. The same 15 dudes, I gone from maybe the 4th tallest to the 7th tallest to the, 13th, 14th tallest. Yeah. And, that was it. I was like, well, Penny Hardaway could, no, not really. Yeah, so that was much of the hose. Oh, Mrs. Lehman. All right, so Mrs. Lehman was an English teacher and also one of like the absolute first crush I ever had as far as teacher-wise, right? And I remember she was blonde, very, very well assembled teacher. And there was middle school when guys are going through changes, you got the voice changing, you got the acne, you got the hormones going all over the place. Yeah. We'll just let you put 2 and 2 together. All right. And, but I do remember she dressed, like Angela from The Office, like old school, like amulets, having the amulets and like shirts with lace and frill and stuff. It was very, like, if you tell me right now that she had been a time traveler, I would have believed it. Like, she had been a time traveler from Jules Verne era, like 1800s, and she just plopped into rural southeast Minnesota just for the LOLs. Yeah, I would have believed it. Yeah, there we go. And, also, that was my first experience with coffee breath, because all the teachers had coffee breath. Yeah. One of the first times you pick up on that. But now, as I'm speaking to this mic, and the wind guard is actually getting brown because of maybe halitosis, but probably coffee breath, I understand. I commiserate now. And then, yeah, also, what was it? Who else was a good middle school teacher? Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard, who follows me on Twitter. So if he's hearing this, he's hearing me talk about myself. He was a middle school guidance counselor, I believe. And I remember he did life, a lot of classes on life. And then he was the guidance counselor at the high school, assistant coach on the football team. And yeah, I distinctly remember something of where we got the class up and we split up. It's like, would you rather have lots of friends or lots of money? And there's like 30 kids in the class. 28 of them went over to the friend side, right? And I sat my ass on the money side. I'm like, I ain't moving. And one other kid was over there too. I'm like, no. And then Mr. Bernard was like, Andy, why don't you explain your position? It was like, money buys a lot of things. It can also buy friends. And like that was the kids' wiring back then, because that was during the time of MTV Cribs and getting blinged out. I guess we haven't really moved on past that point yet. But yeah, that was literally how I felt at the time. Now, as you get older and wiser, and apparently my classmates were older and wiser back then, you definitely think about it from the other way. But yeah, not so much. Let's see, eighth grade, and that was great too. Getting into organized sports, because we didn't have Pee Wee football, we didn't have Pee Wee basketball. Like fifth or sixth grade, it started getting into travel team basketball, and of course we had Little League baseball all throughout. But I remember football, seventh grade, man, putting those pads on and playing football, that was amazing. And also our teachers were, the coaches, as they're wont to do. So seventh grade football coach was Mr. Wade, if you remember him from third grade, and also was a track and field coach. That was cool. I mean, doing the running back and wearing number 24, numerology podcast coming soon. And I remember right away I had for some reason my parents got me soccer cleats. Yeah, but it worked, And even though they were low cut, they were fine. They helped out because I was in my younger and less heavy days. I was rather speedy back, and I remember the eighth graders got to play on the actual field. Seventh graders, we played on like the old Oakland Coliseum, like baseball half dirt field, and I remember scoring my first touchdown and running into the end zone, which was the half dirt part, and then taking a tumble. I was like, man, this kind of sucks. Now I know how all the Raiders feel. Yeah, it's odd. But yeah, 7th, 8th grade coming through there and into high school. Some of my favorite high school teachers. And then I'll highlight the one that is my least favorite of all time. So Mr. Colmanson, he was very eclectic. Like, I'm pretty sure he ran businesses on top of being a teacher. I know he was really big into farming and agriculture. Ran his own farm, etc. So he's doing all right. And he taught me hustle. He taught me work. He ran the ag program, which I never really had time for. I didn't really care about. He ran electricity classes, which is amazing. I mean, I still have those skills. I can wire up a house now, and yeah, just the hands-on, visceral stuff. Because I remember a lot of the guys that were in that class. They were going to be the guys that were going to be learning a trade. Really got a lot of value from early on working with their hands, whether it be mechanics, a welder, electrician, whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those jobs. I mean, they're very well-paying jobs, especially if you get in a union. And the fact that Mr. C, as we affectionately called him, gave those kids an option as opposed to just sitting in the dullness of class. Like, I was a good student and I hated sitting in class. I can't imagine the guys who were just working on four-wheelers or were just going to go out and get a union shop job right away, how they felt about sitting through English lit. Yeah. It was not lit. It was not lit at all. So Mr. C did that. He also ran the school to work program and went through that too. And just getting kids ready for the real world, it's way more important than a lot of the school curriculum. And I understand that teachers are bound to curriculum set by a bunch of bureaucrats, in each individual state and superintendents. I get that. But, the way that Mr. C did it, getting people ready for the real world. Because, well, let me ask, like, not every kid goes to college. A lot of kids are just going to be working right away. They're going to go work at the grain elevator. They're going to go work on a farm. They're going to go be a lumberjack, as one of my friends from high school dropped out of school in 9th grade to go be. Yeah. And getting them ready, giving them options like that, I think it's a lot of great foresight, very much ahead of the curve. And, just a great teacher, and not in sit you down, have a deep conversation. He also did that too, right? But just leading by example, the way you should properly live your life, the way that you should structure it, and the way that you should put the work in so that your kids, he's got 3 wonderful kids, who are great leaders in their fields. I think one of them's a doctor. Yeah. And, setting your kids up for success by busting your ass and doing the right thing, just that sort of example, just, amazing, and something that really sticks with you. Even as, I get older, I have a family, and yeah, it still definitely sticks to your ribs. Also, Mr. Reinhardt, which Mr. Reinhardt was in the Mike Zimmer mold Belichick mold. That's a better example, where he comes off as dry, gruff, and maybe not too sociable. But once you get past that, funniest, biggest personality, dude. Just a dry sense of humor, which is hilarious. Now, he was a high school math teacher, but was also a middle school basketball and then varsity football head coach as well. And no big deal. My senior class was the first state championship that he won. Ended up being a run of 3 and 5 years in Class A. Rusher Pearson, look us up. NBD. No big deal. But yeah, Mr. Reiner, old school throwback guy. I hated math. I hated those stupid graphing calculators that were a pain in my ass, and also a pain in my parents' ass because every parent's ass, because they're like $150, man. $150 for a stupid graphing calculator that your kid is just going to download Mario and play anyways, which I did, which every kid did. They were awesome. And yeah, just old school ways of solving equations. Like, I'm pretty sure he probably got the equivalent of black lung from breathing in all that talc, from the chalk, because that's the thing I remember. He was always covered in chalk dust, always, writing equations and screeching on that chalkboard. And yeah, it's funny how things stick with you. Also, the value of putting it in hard work. Got that a lot from football, having it be a pure meritocracy as well. Where he had a standing policy that always sticks with me is you can't lose your job. If you're a starter and got hurt, you can't lose your job to injury. Now, that might be only one play. If the guy comes back in and is gangbusters, your replacement. But I always thought that was fair. I always thought that prevented guys from rushing back from injury. But also, like, hey, if you're not up to snuff, the guy who is actually playing well is going to be ahead of you. Yeah, I didn't play much. Yeah, being the slot receiver in a team that only ran out of pro set. Yeah. Oh, dude. I did catch one touchdown. And I'm trying to track down the video. If someone from Rushford is listening, yeah, send me that video. Because it got on the news. Because the way that the local news did it, KTTC out of Rochester, they're awesome. And KAL and KIMT sometimes came up Channel 3 CBS. That they would go around to all the high school football games on Friday, get a couple minutes of B-roll footage for the highlights, and then just move on to the next town. Yeah, it's really cool how they did that. I'm pretty sure it's all done by cell phone now. They just have one person at each school send in some cell phone video. Yeah, but yeah, the 10 minutes that KTTC was there was when I caught my touchdown against Lewiston, Minnesota, the Go Cardinals, and yeah, I got in the news, and I remember it because Pat Lunn, who's a sports institution down there, KTTC down in Rochester, look him up. I remember it was like, and Andy Carlson catches the pass and he cruises in for the touchdown, even though it was extremely laborious, and I was very lucky. The referees let my teammates get away with like 6 blocks in the back because I was so slow trying to get it. Well, it wasn't slow, but you know what I mean. And yeah, just good stuff like that. A couple more teachers since we're talking about teachers. Mrs. Michael, and she was an English teacher, and also I had a mild crush on Mrs. Michael. I'm not even afraid to admit that. And I remember her specifically because she helped me learn to write a little bit. Creatively, I'm not a strong writer. Like, I'm the only member of Vikings blogger Twitter that's never written a word, right? But putting together word sentences, maybe it helps with this dictation and talking and blah, blah, blah stuff. But also, I remember she was the teacher where I spent the bulk of 9/11 on. Yeah. And that was on a Tuesday coming out of shop class, with Mr. C, and just hearing, he's like, "Oh, did you hear that a plane hit the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers?" It's like, "Oh, what jackass, what a stupid idiot pilot." And then you're finding out more details that it was a terrorist attack. And I just went, she canceled class that day. We turned on the TVs, which we're on CNN or the news, and we're watching all this stuff. And it is really, because a lot of teachers did that, right? But she could have commandeered it, be like, "Hey, we're going over Chaucer or some BS," but no, like, this is an important world event. Like, you're gonna remember exactly where you were when you heard the news or that day for the rest of your life, as I remember right now. And because I still remember my seat was in the second row from the left, second seat back. And I just remember, the dull carpet, that wood paneled room, looking out the window, because my row was near the window. I was like, are they going to crash a plane into the school? Like that. That's literally how I was thinking. Yeah. And I don't know. I really respect Mrs. Michael for doing that. Also, she's funny as hell. She was the dance coach teacher, and one of my favorite things was just giving her BS, because she could dish it as well as she could take it. Wonderful, wonderful woman. One more teacher that I really loved, Dwayne Kanan. He was the chemistry teacher, Mr. Kanan. Chemistry teacher, also assistant coach on the football team. I worked a lot with receivers, so I got to know him quite a bit. Never put me on special teams. That was always a pain in the ass. I was like, hey, Kay, let me go run someone down. You're not going to tackle him if you get there. Well, shoot. Because I could get to the ball carrier, but I was very Fred Smoodish. Yeah, wasn't all about that contact life. But as far as sciences go, was a great chemistry teacher, AP chemistry, that whole thing. Got me some free credits in going to school, going through those AP classes. Made learning fun, and like, that's a very undersold thing. Like, you can make learning fun in the sense of, you can have every day be a party, bring in caramel corn and ice cream and a clown if you like clowns, sure, and da-da-da. I mean, that's fun too. But we can make learning fun, and you're actually learning the shiz. You're actually retaining and applying that knowledge. That's really important. Also, I remember so Kanan, I always did a March Madness pool. Like, that was my thing, right? And I always organized it. I always get students from the various grades. I think the biggest year we had like 50 entrants, which is pretty good for a very small high school. I think my graduating class was 69 people. Nice. And all right, so I just, on a larf, went to the teacher's room. I was like, "Hey, Kanan, you want to get on this March Madness pool?" I was like, "No, but if you see me out and about later, maybe." So then, ironically, I saw him later at the gas station, and then he joined the pool. So it's just funny little stupid stories like that, right? And also, Mr. Gain, he had a student teacher named Andrew Carlson. Yeah, so that was great. Also, he was this big nerdy dude, and I got so much shit because the student teacher was kind of nerdy, kind of socially awkward, same damn name as me. Yeah, high school kids are not really creative in their burn, so that was a pretty easy one. Yeah, so that's something I remember. Have not met an actual Andrew Carlson since, although I'm Facebook friends with like 5 of them, because for some reason there's like a fraternity of Andrew Carlsons. They just add each other. Yeah, it's very odd. But anyways, the one now this is all about appreciation. There's one teacher that I despised really, really much. But the one college professor, before we have to go, that I really loved, I alluded to him earlier, Don Salyard's still teaching entrepreneurship down at Winona State University. And I think he's primarily econ. I think that's the thing, but his entrepreneur class, the way that he goes out in the community and applies that, it's amazing. Plus, he runs several businesses down there. And also, just there's a funny incident where we went around and visited a bunch of entrepreneurial places because Winona is very oddly like a great incubator for not startups but just like individual sole proprietorships, companies. There's just something in the water besides arsenic that just gets people to start up companies. There's tons and tons and tons of entrepreneurs down in Winona, and I remember one of them. We went to a Chinese restaurant. The typical immigrant story: bring the family over from China, start up the Chinese restaurant, have the kids work in the restaurant, have them go off to good schools, really stress their education. Like all of our kids went to the private high school, Cotter down there, and really great, really cool bootstrapping type stories. And we had a great spread, right? And the lady wanted to comp all of us, because we're 15 hungry college students, right? Of course, we would love all this free Chinese food, except Don made us pay $5. Have us all chip in $5, tip the staff, etc. And the line that stuck with me, because a lot of us were kind of perturbed. It's like, come on, Don. She wants to give us the food for free. We're a bunch of hungry college students. Where are we gonna get $5 from? And they're like, hey, Don, you flipping a profit on this? And he said, you'll appreciate it more even if you're paying like the nominal $5. And that's always stuck with me. And people don't appreciate things that you get for free. You really don't. And we could go down the whole welfare pipeline, but we won't. But yeah, when you got some skin in the game, even if it's nominal, I mean, like, even back then, like a good Chinese dinner would be $10-12, right? So we're getting for $5. It's no skin off our back, etc. But when you have a little skin in the game, when you're just slightly emotionally invested, you do appreciate it more. You're gonna not leave the leftovers. You're gonna box them out. You're gonna be ready to go. And I think it's a good analogy for life, where if you're actually into it, whether it be financially, whether it be mentally, whether it be just anything, emotionally, whatever, you're going to appreciate it a little bit more. That's always stuck with me. And see, that's the great thing about great teachers, is that they can teach even when they're not teaching. Like, I'm sure Don didn't go out and try to instill that lesson in us that day. I'm sure he was just like, hey, man, let's just tip the staff. I mean, $5, what are you gonna do? You're gonna spend $5 on a beer or a beer or two later. So what does it even matter? And yeah, just some going through some of the great teachers that I've had, and the small lesson that you pick up all the time. And I still believe teaching is a noble profession. I do believe that the union covers up for a lot of bad teachers and keeps them employed, because once you get tenure, if you're not truly altruistic about teaching the next generation, having enthusiasm, it becomes kind of like communism. I'm like, what was the point of giving more effort? You're not going to make an extra dollar, or you're not going to lose $1 by providing effort. And I do believe that there's a lot of really crappy teachers out there. And, we highlighted some of the highlights, didn't go down the path of darkness, but probably 60-40 good teachers to really crappy teachers. And I wouldn't be shocked if that ratio is flipped nowadays. And it sucks because, I'm friends with a lot of teachers who are in it for the right reasons. You can tell, like, this is their calling of educating. They are educators, as opposed to someone who's just a teacher because they want to coach the football team, someone who wants to be a teacher just because they want to coach the basketball team, or they're waiting until their novel gets picked up. Those are the wrong reasons to get in. And I don't have a good answer. I do think the teachers union has become a cartel. I do believe in school choice. I do believe in charter schools, but even those have drawbacks too. Yeah. And not to end it on that note, but yeah, take some time this week and talk about, tweet at, shoot an email, shoot a letter to some of the teachers that have really changed your life. And I love Mr. C. I love Don Salyards. I love Mrs. Hoyland. I love Mrs. Lehman, if you know what I mean. I love Mr. Reinhardt. I love Dwayne Kanan. I love Mrs. Colemanson. I love Mrs. Mira. I love all these teachers. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And yeah, the fact that these names are still on the tip of your tongue, like 20, 25 years removed. That's the power of teachers. It is. Also the power of, hey, getting around town. Yeah, not driving, not paying for parking, not being a pain in the ass, not getting a DUI. Yeah, can't be having that. Get around town by downloading the app, bullshow.co/Lyft, LYFT, and it varies. You can get $15 off your couple rides. Sometimes it's $25, depending on when the offer is in. Bullshow.co/Lyft, LYFT. Just download the app. Have it on your phone for when you need a ride. You can get a ride. Do it up. We're out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Nick will be in studio, and we'll go play How Old They Be. It's going to be good. iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Check us out on YouTube as well, and on social media at Andy Carlson Show, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend, spread the word. Add to the Jerome Homie Army. And thanks to producer Allie Jerome Sorensen for making me not sound so stupid today. But for me, I'm Andy Carlson saying, and young, sayonara, and bye-bye. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Bull with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast. Download the show on iTunes. Everyone's middle name is Jerome.